What's up, everyone? What's up, everyone? What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Every Rep Counts podcast, where we turn moments into mastery, one rep at a time. I am your host, Marvin Sanders, here with some authentic and transformational information for our athletes, coaches, and athletic directors. Before we jump into the bulk of what this episode is about, I wanted to take some time to wish all of you a happy Easter. Take some time with your friends and your family, do some reflecting, do some decompression, and let's get started for the remainder of the week. So what this episode is essentially about follows from a few people who reached out to me on different social media platforms and asked, hey, I love what you're doing. I love the information that you're sharing. It's really applicable to my own journey. However, what about your journey? What did you do to become an athletic director? Share those steps that you took to become an athletic director. So, I thought that, hey, if there was anything that I could share outside of many other episodes that we'll get into regarding the strategies for athletic directors, coaches, and athletes, let's start from the beginning of my journey of becoming an athletic director. So that's what this episode is going to be about. How this episode is going to be structured. We'll first share what intrigued me into becoming or wanting to become an athletic director. I think that's imperative for me to share, because I think in anything that you do in life, what should always have a purpose, and something should intrigue you to give you that drive and that initiative to want to pursue said thing. So for me, starts at what intrigued me to wanting to become an athletic director. Secondly, we'll discuss the steps that I took to improve my chances of being qualifiable to become an athletic director. And I think for all of the listeners out there, this is the most important part of my story. The steps that I took to increase my chances of becoming qualifiable to become an athletic director. And then lastly, would be some advice, some resources, and strategies that I used in order to not only help develop my skills and acumen as an athletic director and a leader, but also, resources that I still use today and strategies that I still use today to help position me in a better setting when it comes to what I want for our student athletes. So without further ado, let's get started. All right. So what intrigued me to wanting to become an athletic director? And I'll start. For me, I started in high school. What intrigued me about becoming an athletic director was the fact that my basketball coach at the time was the athletic director. And I didn't know what that position was at the time. Of course, you're 14, 15 years old. That's far from what you're thinking about at that time. High school, there's so much happening. There's so many things that are occurring each day. So I didn't understand why my coach was in the school every day from morning until school ended. So one day, I'm heading to the bathroom. I come back, I see him in his office, and I stopped and talked to him a little bit. Asked him, hey, I thought you were just our coach. And then he told me, hey, Marvin, I'm more than just a coach. I am the athletic director. And he kind of broke down the fundamentals of what his job entails. And it's always a running joke now to this day, now that I'm an athletic director, where people would say, hey, what is it that you do anyway? And I kind of chuckle at that, because it's a running joke that, hey, as multifaceted our position is, it's so difficult to kind of share in detail and explain what an athletic director does, because we do so much. But, when I asked him that, he looked at me because he knew that I was just naive to what that position entailed, and he shared what that position entailed. And as he was talking, I just visualized myself in that role. And that's when that subconscious desire came in for me to wanting to pursue what this athletic director role may look like in the future. Another reason why, which is a little funny, is his charisma and how he dressed. Like, I just thought it was so dope, for someone in a school setting to wear Nike, track suits and, Nike Air Maxes. And it was time where, my teammates and I, we would go over to him at time and just, joke with him. And we would be like,
Hey, yo, man. Hey, coach. I see you got those Air Maxes on. What year are they? What year are they? Like 2017? 2016, 15? What year, man? Like, those things are sharp. You got the blue ones last year, the Duke brand. You got this year. You got this year, that year.
and then he would look at us, chuckle, and he would just, joke with us and stuff like that. But he always said, like, hey, even though I'm an athletic director, I also have my professional side too. And depending on my day, I may dress in my Air Maxes, or I may dress semi-casual, or I may dress this way, that way. And at that time, I'm just like, dude, not only was I impacted from what he was saying, but it was so inspiring to me. It was something about just how he explained what athletic directing was, how it was, the influence he already had on me. It was like, wow, like I think if all else fails, in my mind, subconsciously, I would say, if all else fails, this is something I can see myself doing for the rest of my entire life. And then lastly, on top of all that, of being impacted by what he was saying, being, him being influential in my life, of just when it came to explaining what an athletic director does, alongside being my basketball coach, is just that I was always involved more, outside of just athletics. I was involved in French club, helping hands. I was involved in tutoring. I was just involved in a lot of different activities outside of just athletics specifically. And I told myself, like, if I am around this environment, this culture, or if I'm just around this environment when it came down to, youth athletics, and I can find a career in this, I would be the happiest man in the world. From there, fast forward, this is when I became very steadfast and very diligent in my work. So the second part of this is, what steps did I take to improve my chances of becoming an athletic director? Here it is. The first thing that I did, and now the setting is me in college. So at the time when I was in college, I joined this mentor-mentee alliance program, essentially a mentorship program where I found or got connected with someone who I felt some alignment with. And from our rapport, he kind of, asked me what I wanted to do. I kind of shared my story with him. And he said, you know what? I know someone within this league that we're in. Let me introduce you to him. And from that mentor, doubled into another mentor. It just so happened that this mentor that I was just introduced to had 20 plus years or 25 plus years of educational experience, leadership experience, and he was, and to what I regard him as, a great leader and a great athletic director. From there, I just soaked up so much knowledge, soaked up so much information from him, some strategies. I did homework, but even before the introduction, what I did was cold call. Like, I did some research on, okay, if I am in this area, let's look at the surrounding districts in this proximity, or in this 10 to 20 mile radius. And from there, I would do some cold calling. Now, at the time, I didn't understand or didn't know that there was a website where you can find the directory, that there was a directory of all the Pennsylvania districts out there, or districts within Pennsylvania out there. So what I did was I just went on Google, looked up school districts in the surrounding area, mapped it out, 10 to 20 mile radius. And then from there, wrote them all down, wrote the phone numbers down, and then called, got in touch with their athletic department, patched myself into, the athletic director. If they answered, great. If they didn't, I left a voicemail. Then I would follow up with an email. So that was the more, I would say, laborious, process. Now, one resource that you can go to, now for us, we're in the state of Pennsylvania. So we have what you call, our state organization is the PIAA, the Pennsylvania Interscholastic Athletic Administration. You know what I mean? So our Athletic Administration Association. So from there, you can go on your state organization's webpage. There's a tab that will say directory, and that will direct you to all the schools within that state. So instead of doing it the laborious way that I did, because I was naive, now there's a resource that you can also use. So if you're in Michigan, if you're in Delaware, if you're in New York, if you're in Texas, there is a state organization's webpage that you can go on to find the respective schools within that surrounding area that you live in. And lastly, and certainly not least, one thing that I also did during that time while I was in college, going through the mentorship program, finishing out my schooling, I also wanted to pursue not only my bachelor's, but I wanted to pursue my master's, because during my research throughout that time, while I was in college, and then also speaking with my initial mentor, schooling was, or your academic scholarship was always the focal point. If you can, develop yourself from a academic standpoint and gain more information into the domain that you want to thrive in, or the domain that is of interest to you, then pursue that. So I knew that education was important. I knew that education was a tool that I could use, that was permanent, that can never leave my mind, my body, my spirit. So I chose schooling as my catalyst to not only understand the theoretic side of things, but also the practical side of things as well. So I chose to attain my master's, and that's what I did during that time. So I graduated with my bachelor's, still, doing a cold calling, talking to both my mentors, just trying to submerge and ingrain myself into the world of athletic administration. With all three of those, actions and pursuits, I knew that if I acquired a mentor, that if I focused on cold calling or reaching out to respective schools within the proximity that I'm living in, and pursued my scholarship, academic achievement, then I knew that I would have more of a statistically higher percentage of attaining said goal, which was becoming an athletic director. From there, kind of fast forward into, me attaining the position, me trying to figure out what I needed to do from, from a beginner standpoint. Your first year of an athletic director is the most grueling, is the most arduous, it's the most strenuous, it's the most depressing. It challenges you in a multitude of ways. But as you overcome that, and as you materialize what you've learned and your experiences and within that district that you're serving, and you materialize that into year 2, and then materialize that into year 3, you start to gain a callus within your mind, your body, and spirit, and you start to realize that you're learning and you're developing and you're growing, and you start to thrive, and you start to become more comfortable and you start to become more transparent and you start to take control of your pursuit in helping to holistically transform the student body. During that time that I was in this period of understanding and learning, which I still am in. So don't get fooled with this. Like, even though I've been in this almost 8 years, it feels like it's still my first year. So don't get fooled that what I'm saying to you, I don't apply to my own life, because I still do. And what I'm going to share with you, outside of the second point of the steps to increase your chances of becoming qualifiable, this third step here is the most important piece, whether you are in your first year, your second year, third year, or if you're still aspiring to acquire that first position. So for me, as far as advice is concerned, because there's so many pieces of advice that I want to share with you, but we're going to spread this out through different episodes. But as we get into my life and my journey, I surely want to send and share some transformational information that will be applicable to your journey. So the 3 things that I was doing from when I first was intrigued into now, even still, I'm still developing, was 1, knowing what your purpose is. What is your purpose of wanting to become an athletic director? I think that's the biggest thing that we all need to ask ourselves, from a fundamental standpoint, from a psychological perspective, from a human dynamics perspective, because I have seen so many people position themselves in a role of this within this sector, and either have failed or either have decided to quit, or have completely have self-sabotaged themselves because they did it for the wrong reasons. Their purpose, they either had the wrong purpose or they didn't have a purpose at all. So for me, my purpose has always been the student. Like, I am doing this because I choose, and here's my personal vision that I'm going to share with you. My personal vision that's applicable to anything that I do, whether it's mowing grass, whether it's working in warehouse positions that I used to do, whether it's tutoring, whatever, it's developing students by helping them learn their purpose to become the best version of themselves academically, athletically, and personally. That's something that took me from when I started, when that first subconscious intrigue kicked in, until now. It took me that long to kind of formulate that vision and mission statement for me. So what is your purpose? Why are you doing this? That's the most important thing that you need to hone and you need to start thinking about, because once you have your purpose, that'll help guide you into your journey, and it'll be that metaphoric light at the end of the tunnel for you. The second thing is educating yourself. And I know I said this in my prior phase of, how to increase your chances of being qualifiable. Yes, education is important. That's why I'm saying it again. There was a quote by Malcolm X that I have plastered on my wall, and it states, "Education is the passport to the future, for tomorrow belongs to those who prepare for it today." Education is huge. Education is important. Not only are you grounding yourself, but you are formulating ideas and information in your mind to then use as a tool to help build your unique strategy that can ultimately help your focal point. So education is very important. And then lastly, and I also said this in the second part as well, and that's mentorship. Mentorship is highly important. Mentorship is everything. Mentorship can help you understand more about yourself before you even jump into the ocean to start diving or to start swimming toward that goal. Mentorship is essential to growth. It's not an indication of your weakness. It's an indication of your mental, spiritual, and emotional strength. So don't let anyone ever tell you otherwise. So again, you can find mentorships on LinkedIn, Facebook, any social media channel you can. You can go to conferences in your state. We have Pennsylvania conferences all the time. Anyone's welcome. So within whatever state that you live in, make sure that you go to the local and regional conference, because it's open to all. And if you can't find anybody to help you or guide you or lead you, this platform can help you, but also I can help you personally. So if you haven't seen it, look down below and you'll see our contact information listed right here in this segment. You can use this email, you can reach out to us, and we'll be sure to help you in any questions that you may have, or we can be that guiding light for you when it comes to what you may need in your journey, to help be that catalyst for you, to help you get from point A to point B. So remember, out of all these three things, never forget who you are, never forget what your purpose is, and always remember to remain steadfast and diligent in your pursuits, because every rep counts.